Thank you. We do have an excused absence. Brandon Marks, we knew would not be able to attend. I'll be sitting in his chair for his meeting that follows this one. Why don't we go ahead and open it up for a call to the public at this time? Any comments? We'll have an opportunity. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sure. Name's Tom Yankee, and I'm going to speak personally today as a resident and as a taxpayer of the county. I know that you all are doing a great job, and I'm not giving you false accolades. You guys are looking at those numbers, and you're doing everything you can to hold everybody responsible, that our money, our tax money, is being spent wisely. On the business side, I'm a journalist, and I'm doing a story, and something has come that is quite disturbing. And I don't know whether our county right now is giving Magnet, which is the organization here that busts drug dealers, any money. I know the city of Wausau does, and I will be talking to them tonight. But in the 20 years that they've been in operation, not one heroin kingpin that we can find has ever been busted. All we can find is street people and users. So we started asking criminals, are you giving up names? Yes, they are. So I interviewed some people who used to be on Magnet. Of course, they don't want their names used. Some were a long time ago. They were told it's a numbers game. They're not after kingpins. They're not after mid-level dealers. They want street and users because that keeps the numbers up so that they keep their funding. My question is this: in 20 years, a law enforcement operation should stumble over at least one mid-level or higher kingpin. So what I'm asking is that Magnet, when they ask for money, that just like every other department, their feet are kept to the fire and they're asked, not street, because our local police do a great job. Oh my gosh, they can pick up meth or heroin users every day off the street. They know who they are. But instead, that their feet are held to the fire, that they bring in those that are bringing the poison into the community. The people who are buying millions of dollars and bringing it in. So that's all I'm asking. It's just accountability. You hold the sheriff's department accountable. You hold everyone else accountable. If the county gives any money to Magnet, or even if the money, if the county doesn't, it's only you folks that can hold people accountable. So in 20 years, not one heroin dealer, big, middle, or up, has been brought to justice. It's about time. And if numbers go down, do we really care about how many street people they picked up last week? Seems like what we want is that person that is selling it to those dealers that are selling in this Shiawassee County, and get them off, and get them in jail. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Being a new commissioner here, I don't have much information on what the county might contribute, if anything, to the program. I'm curious, our finance director? Yes.
The county, the Magnet receives a federal burn drug grant annually, and it has to be filed for through the county. The county is the only one that can apply for it. We do not provide other funding to Magnet outside of sponsoring that grant that they use.
But at one time we did though, correct? I mean, one time we had didn't we have like a detective out of the sheriff's office that was?
We don't have that.
We don't have it anymore. Yeah, John.
When the sheriff's millage for the road patrol failed, that was, the county, that's when the sheriff then pulled our man out of that. So the county actually contributes no money, we have nobody involved, it's all federal grant. Magnet has came around to I brought this up, me and Commissioner Rook, and I brought this up at the MTA meeting, because they have came around to the townships and asked for donations, but they've been, in the last 3 or 4 years, they've been kind of a ghost team, you know, nobody knows who they are, they don't come around. All the people in my district said, you know, if they want money, they gotta come in, somebody, even if they're undercover people, but make a presentation and tell us what they're doing, because we're not just giving money because they say this is what we're doing, we wanna know. So
who is it, state police?
it's the state police more so, in the state of Michigan with a federal grant, but no county money, and very few townships are given anymore. At one time, several of them were, but most of them have been drawn out.
Is there any kind of annual report that's filed by Magnet for the county, activities, anything like that?
No,
They
it's
said they weren't going to.
weird.
And that's why all the time, my township people are pulling out, because they want some kind of,
Yeah, there's no performance
accountability.
metrics, you don't know what's.
I actually had a personal interaction with Magnet a couple years ago with our neighborhood, and I couldn't even, they wouldn't tell me results. They wouldn't tell me if they were successful or not, whether something went to trial or not, but they went very, very tight-lipped on everything. I couldn't get an answer afterwards, so what was the follow-up, what happened?
So this is
I
out, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Bert, I got one more comment before I be quiet on this. So, 2 or 3 years ago, a few of my neighbors noticed that some people were doing illegal drug activity. You know, it was only a couple of houses down from me, and it wasn't just me; it was several people. And I complained to the county. But finally, last year we got somebody to go out there last fall, and they did bust them, and they took all sorts of marijuana plants and did all sorts of stuff. I continually ask the sheriff and the prosecutor and stuff, what's going on out there, what's going on there. Nobody knows. Nobody knows if anybody's ever been brought to court.
Just the
what's
time
going
frame.
on.
Yeah, so I see that Sheriff McGold just joined us. We had some public comments regarding the Magnet program and the success or lack thereof, and some accountability.
Funding, oversight.
Questions, funding. Do you have anything to offer to the conversation at this point as far as your involvement?
Actually, I just received a letter from Elma saying they're pulling out of it. So, the city of Elma's, so it's probably only gonna be the state police in Gratiot County as far as I know. I didn't have any immediate plans just because of, they don't provide, you know, you provide the deputy with wages, but they don't provide the car, they don't provide, you know, the gas. It's forfeiture wise, I know we've done a lot with our canine dog, and they keep 100% of the forfeiture, so that was also a concern of mine too.
Any feelings about this program going forward from Shiawassee County's perspective, Sheriff?
A vital function, if we can afford it. But, I mean, we obviously have a bad heroin epidemic problem in the county. And if they concentrate, you know, on heroin and meth and things like that, I think definitely.
Well, I understand we're just a fiduciary for federal pass-through dollars that then go to Magnet. The county's not contributing any of its general fund dollars or otherwise to the program. I'm curious, Patty, how much is that annually? Do you know that the county applies for and passes through to Magnet?
Magnet does the applications and everything. No one on the Board of Commissioners signs the grant application, and it seems like it's around $100,000, but I could be wrong. I don't remember the exact number. I can find out.
Okay. I just wonder if this is something that, you know, under our purview, that maybe we invite somebody from the program in just to learn more about it. Might be a good first step. I don't know if the other commissioners would like that information or not.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, we kind of got it at MTA, and it was not much of anything. It was kind of like, I'm not gonna tell you, because I don't want you to know
I was just gonna say,
what I'm doing and how I'm doing it.
They
You know,
want us
I
to
don't
be-
wanna,
in a closed board meeting probably.
Yeah.
It is a very, they are very, very tight-lipped, very, and like I said, he's gonna report on the results and stuff. Yeah, I tried to find out when I had involvement with him. I couldn't find out anything.
Well, I just tried to be responsive to it. It sounds like there's potential concerns, not only to the public, but
I
the
mean, we
commission.
can have him come in, we can have him come in and,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
See
not
what they
opposed to
say.
that.
Brian, you kind of came in late, we're just, the discussion started is, we're just, the lack of what they're actually accomplishing and doing. Some of the
Where
townships
that it's
are
low level.
not paying money
His
to them
concern is it's
anymore.
not mid or high level targets
Mhm.
they're going after.
But what I've uncovered is allegations from former deputies that were on, not deputies, let's just say officers. That way we covered all across. That they were told not to focus on middle to upper because it was a numbers game. And they had to bring in numbers. So every week or every 2 weeks, they needed to have a certain amount of numbers going in on the police blotter or whatever. So they were to focus on street people and users, but not middle and up. And in the last 20 years, there has never been a heroin dealer from middle on up that's ever been busted. And I have criminals that tell me, yeah, we have to give up names. They press us to give up names. We give up names. But no kingpin or middle is picked up. And again, the allegation is because if they did, then it would dry up and they wouldn't have the numbers. Now, I mean, that's allegation.
Sure. I don't know how much truth there is to that. I mean, obviously, I think you'd rather want to get the dealer. And I think most of the dealers are in Flint, so, you know, what the cooperation is between Magnet and Fang, to what level? You know, that's, you know, rests with them.
All right, I think this is helpful conversation. I'd like to follow up maybe with Kaylee, and if we could invite somebody from the program, see if we could get them here, at least to a committee meeting, to give a presentation on what they do here in Shiawassee County and give us an opportunity to ask questions. I think it might be time well spent.
Now, it may be a while because this is transplant season, and when I went to them, it was transplant season, and it took months for me to actually meet with somebody because it's transplant season and they're really focused, we're really focused.
That's fine. Yeah, let's get on the radar.
It may be a while.
Thank you for that.
It may be a while.
All right, thank you. And I was remiss starting out the meeting. Commissioner Holzhausen has informed me that he needs to leave at 5:30 for a mental health committee, so he leaves. It's for another committee. Apologize for that. That's a miss. Okay, any other public comments this afternoon? We'll have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Okay, seeing none. Agenda item number 4, I move to consider accepting and place on file the Shiawassee County Register of Deeds Office 2016 Annual Report.
So moved.
Okay. I moved it, so you'd support it then? All right. Discussion, we don't have the Register of Deeds.
Yes, we do.
Oh, I'm sorry, she's right there.
The report, good afternoon. The report is pretty straightforward unless you have any questions for me.
I took a quick look at it. I see the county's moved to digitizing all of the records then. They go into archive and they're stored in Grand Rapids, and for 40 or since the beginning of time they've been
Well,
stored there. Yeah,
Yes,
can you tell me a little bit more about that process? And
about the storing it or,
well, the digitizing, it sounds like the county just this last year
well,
got up to,
since I've been on board with the Registrar's Office in 2005, we've always digitized the records coming in, the current records. But we are going back and digitizing the historical records because of the searchability, making it easier for people. So we've had companies come in and they either use our film or our historic books, and they take pictures of them and then they digitize them. We also then have to have the backup film. The backup film is what is stored in underground at Grand Rapids.
yeah, that's helpful. And I saw some of the old notebooks are degrading, you gotta pull those out, scan
Yes.
them. It sounds like a lot of work.
It is. It's ongoing. These are permanent records. This is not anything that we can ever get rid of, your land records.
And we scan over a couple thousand documents annually, is the number I recall? Something?
Annually, last year, I think we had 11,000 and some documents. And here's,
That was covering some of the historical.
well, just our records for 2016 we had 11,752 documents. But there's pages and pages on each of these documents, so I can't tell you how many actual digital images we have. In our historical, it was like 177,000 digital images.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything that you'd like to highlight or point out in the report for the commissioners? While you have the floor.
Well, we had a better year in 2016 than we did in 15. We were up 24,000 to the general fund. I guess that would be my highlight.
Okay, great. Thank
Do you have any other questions for me?
Commissioners?
I just know that your office works hard and they do contribute a lot to the general fund.
We do.
Sometimes it seems like it goes unappreciated.
Thank you, yes. We generally, and I can't give you the amount right now because of the budgetary from December, but we generally pay for more than we cost the county.
Yeah.
One of the few offices, I'm sure.
Reminded of an old adage in life, the visible is supported by the invisible. And you do a lot of that invisible that people don't fully appreciate. So that certainly came through.
I try to remind you guys as often as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Okay, I'll call the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Agenda item number 5, I move to consider authorizing resolution number 17-04-09 for adoption of county equalized value for 2017 and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support that.
Okay. Questions by the commissioners?
I have a quick, a parliamentary question. Are we doing this right? Okay, so Jeff or I have to make the motion in support. You asked for the motion.
Okay, I was instructed in the past that I could move as reading and then ask for support. So,
Just when you're presenting at committee of the whole. When you're presenting at committee of the whole and when you're presenting at the board meeting. In your committee meeting as the chairman of the board, because you're not the chair committee or the board meeting, then you can make the motion. But when you're the chairman doesn't make a motion.
request.
Just
for the
asks
motion.
for a motion.
Okay, thank you.
So I'll make the motion.
I'll support it.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. It's been moved and supported. Any questions?
He is here.
You are here, if you'd like to step up briefly.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'll be brief given, well, Mr. Holzhausen is going to head out anyways. I'd first like to introduce Scott Cunningham. Some of you may know him from prior visits to our office. Scott is the equalization director. This adoption for equalization starts last year, essentially when we determined the market value of development in the community of real property class, which includes residential, industrial, commercial, and agricultural. We essentially tell the assessors at the end of the year that that their values are either high or low and they need to raise or increase. This is the culmination of that process after the assessors take their local units through the March Board of Review. So what we have now is that the county's equalized value, or soon to be state equalized value, is $2,212,196,448, which is a 4.5% increase in assessed value. Now the tentative taxable value, and tentative taxable value until we get through the rollover process, is $1,728,820,374, which is a 1.75% increase in taxable value. Taxable value is what each individual property owner's taxes are based on that value. So we have seen an increase, unlike prior years where we saw nothing. We've seen a 1.75% increase. So that's there's other forms that are attached to that that are the 4024s. These are required to be filed with the state. Scott has signed his. Once you folks get to the process Thursday afternoon, I'll have the county board chair and the county clerk sign the rest of it. So these are this resolution has the total. These are broke down by individual units. So that's all we have for that.
Okay, questions? Sorry, maybe it's my nature to ask questions. I do have a couple. Page 26 through 29, they list the city of Corona, and then it shows the property class and the assessed value. And there's 2 pages, and then there's a separate one. I mean, the page that follows, this is real industrial again, when it's not listed on the previous sheet for the city of Corona. I just wondered why they're separate.
Those have to be divided between real, personal, and any special act properties. If there's a industrial facilities tax, if there's a tax increment financing district, sometimes it gets involved with DDAs as well. That's the reason they're separate. And those are called the 4037s and are actually your next action item on the agenda.
Okay, yeah, it's the 40.
Yep, and those are all returned once we have original signatures from equalization and you folks. Those are returned to the local unit assessors so they can have it in their assessment roll and be compliant with the state act.
Okay. And then I attended a recent meeting of the Perry Township Board and heard from their assessor, and apparently the state of Michigan's involved, and there's some issues. They do audits of the towns and the assessors, and they look at compliance rates, and they like the townships to be at 90%. Perry Township was below, and so they have to put together a corrective action plan and submit it to the state. Are you involved working with the townships, and is that compliance rate consistent across the county, and what's your experience with that?
That's really something between the local unit and the state, because the AMRs, I mean, we facilitate the state by letting them have, use of the county building to do the interviews for the AMR. It's called a minimum assessment requirements. But really it's up to the local unit cities or townships to deal with the state with the corrective plan. We don't get reported to the state as far as the compliance rate. I don't even know if we get the letters.
We have received the letters way back when they used to call it the 14-point review. They now call it the audit minimum assessing requirements review. And Scott is absolutely correct. That is something between the local units. However, it's our understanding that same audit may in time move up to the county equalization department level as well.
Just so you're aware of it, and can either provide support or oversight or...
Well, they only measure the residential class. So essentially the state has hired TMA, Tax Management Associates,
Yes.
I think, which is a national firm that does have offices here in the state. They used to audit personal property, but now they've moved into auditing assessors, essentially. So what they do is they come in and they audit their assessment roll, but they only look at one class. So they'll ask the assessor for 15 properties. They'll sample 15 properties.
As far as a field audit, they look at all classes as part of that review.
Right.
But as far as going out in the
Small
field,
subset.
going out in the field and actually measuring and listing the properties, they'll just do the residential. That's what Pete was getting at.
Yeah, and this is their 5th year, so now they're going to essentially start again throughout the state. Has there been assessment roll seizures throughout the state? Yes, there's been a couple here or there. Most times when the assessor files this work plan, they just commit to correcting, and the state will come back in 1 or 2 years and double check that they've corrected those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Well, and part of the what equalization is done to support the local units is getting the mapping together.
Right.
Because that's one of the requirements for the local units is that they have a map with all the properties on them. And so doing that GIS mapping has been helpful.
Yeah, it used to be you'd see assessors with their crayons trying to color in these land value maps, but now that we have the parcel data layer, we can participate with them and help them.
As far as the question about supporting them, we do support the local units to a certain.
We do give them a shoulder to cry on if it gets too bad.
Okay.
I've noticed in my townships, it doesn't take much of a glitch to be non-conformist. It could be of the littlest thing that you know that they overlooked that was really nothing, but then it takes them on and puts them in non-compliance.
And we've had some circumstances where the states went and looked at the wrong property, so it's not always on the local unit. So, when there's humans involved, there's always mistakes, so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions by the commissioners? All right, it's been moved and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 6, consider authorizing the State Tax Commission Assessment Roll Certification Forms L-4037 for all local governments within Shiawassee County, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
Support.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Any questions, comments, anything further, Mr. Preston?
None.
Hearing no questions, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Item number 7, I'd accept a motion to consider approving a farmland Public Act 116 agreement for Mr. Mark Sank for property located in Fairfield Township.
I will make that motion.
I'll support it.
It's been moved and supported. Curious, do we have any information on the amount of acreage in PA 116 in the county? Is there anybody here that might be able to shed any light on that? It looks like it's a sort of a somewhat a perfunctory exercise here. These requests, the landowner files them.
It's when they pay, it's when they pay out for the market, so.
Yeah, okay. I took a quick look. It's 150 acres. It affords them some reduction in their state taxes, right?
I didn't want to, I know Mr. Sink, and he lives out on 6 Mile Creek Road, that's what I'll know.
Okay. All right, any further questions? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Agenda item number 8, I'd accept a motion to consider appointing Rick Lamb to the Shiawassee County Zoning Board of Appeals for the period of May 1, 2017 to December 31, 2020, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Questions?
Do we have anything from him?
Yeah, you should have it.
And they
We
hang
have
out
his
around.
resume, we have his resume and his letter of interest that he put in. He sent this on Friday.
I did not see that, Jeremy. Was it just in the pack, or so it wasn't in the original package?
Now, he sent a letter, he was interested in the planning commission, the brownfield redevelopment authority, and the zoning board of appeals. He's willing to serve on any or all if there's openings. The only ones currently we need is ZBA and brownfield. We may have a plan commission opening soon, but we don't yet, so. So we were,
What did we vote on last month? What, we filled 2 positions last month?
we filled 2 last month for ZBA,
For the
but
ZBA.
one of our members that we filled actually lives in Caledonia Township. So he's not in the zoning area, they do their own zoning, so he wasn't qualified, he couldn't be in it. So we made sure we covered this. The guy lives in Perry Township, he's not in the city of Perry, but in the city of Perry, he couldn't have been on, but, so we made sure he's not in the city. He fits and he'll work for ZBA and for Brownfield, because we need an immediate replacement for Brownfield too.
So we had 2, the one just, he
Yes, the
didn't
one
fit the
is-
criteria,
yes.
you had to omit him, and this is a replacement.
Yeah, he was the one that was brought to us by a sitting ZBA member brought us a replacement, so we did check.
I was at that
close enough.
ZBA meeting, there were 7 individuals there.
Yes.
Okay, and so just so I'm tracking this, one of the planning commissioners recused themselves from a vote on the pro line.
Yes.
6 were voting, but now I understand 1 is from Caledonia Township, and therefore,
No, he
No.
wasn't on there yet.
Brad Hassan is the guy who does not want to be on the board anymore. He offered us a name to replace him. We found out he couldn't because he doesn't fit the criteria. So at last minute, Brad decided, okay, I'll fill in for another meeting again, being that he still does not want to do it. So he wants off immediately. So this is just to fill that, because eventually he's not gonna wanna keep serving, and then we'll just have a vacancy. So we do wanna get that filled as soon as possible, but, so that kinda makes,
So
hopefully that
I don't wanna
answers
get
your
into this
question.
too deep either, but Mr. Isong did call me and, you know, he's like, well, if my guy can't be on there, then I'm staying on there and you guys can't kick me off. And I said, well, you know, I don't know where we're gonna go with that at this point.
So this is Mr. Hassan's
So why is he?
recommended replacement here? No, this is
No,
not.
his replacement
It's
wasn't
the guy from
eligible, so then he
California.
called me and said, well, if he can't be on there, so basically, it's one of them, it's kinda like, well, if I'm not gonna get my vote the way I want it, with my new guy coming in that's gonna do what I say, or, you know, vote like I want him to vote, then I'm staying on. So, and I said, well, you know, well, if I can't, if my guy's not qualified, then I'm staying on, and I said, I don't know that you can, well, so I'm gonna cause problems, and blah, 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 so we'll see where it goes.
How was Mr. Lamb's name identified?
I just had an email from him on Friday. I have no idea how he got it to send it. It only got sent to me, directly to me, not to Kaylee. So I don't know how it exactly got sent to me.
Well,
but-
I think this came up a meeting or two ago about how the county goes about recruiting representatives to serve on a variety of boards and the process we use for their vetting, and it seems, quite frankly, that it's been haphazard and not a lot of, you know, thoughtful discussion goes into recruiting kinds of applicants to have diverse representation on the committees. And with the pending pro-line, and I look at a production manager here, a plant manager,
Elected official.
you know, all of these things in here, and I only might be able to guess what vote he would render on the pro-line situation. The fact we'd be hastily removing Mr. Hissong when,
But we're not removing Mr. Hassan, his term is expired.
well, we're replacing him, sure, no, I understand that.
And I guess he's gonna need to get his mind made up. Does he want to be on or does he not want to be on? I mean, this continuing to say, I don't want to be on, I don't want to be on. But if you're not gonna put my hand-picked successor in there, then I'm gonna be on. This kind
And
of,
what you're saying might be a 180-degree flip. I'm not disagreeing one way or another, but so it goes right back to what we talked about a couple months ago.
yeah, either way, it's gonna be haphazard. I mean, do we take his hand-picked successor? Do we take this guy?
Well, what I'm getting more to is the process, right? And I don't understand, and it's sounding like there really isn't a process for
It's a-
recruiting.
there's a lack of participation, so it's kind of like local government by default. And, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, there's some committees that nobody applies for, nobody really wants to be on, and I don't know how we increase the participation.
I mean, I thought we had talked about, you know, whether we post it in the newspaper, whether we put it on the website, that nominations are being sought and it'll be open for this date. We bring a collection of nominations before the commission to compare and contrast and look at the existing representation on these boards and then decide what's best for the county to have diverse perspectives, rather than filling holes, you know, on an ad hoc basis. That's my point.
So who's gonna sit in and do this vetting process of people that want?
I'd be happy to sit in.
But the problem is, I mean,
You're gonna be the one that attends
only
these and
have-
make sure that we get the right people?
Yes.
It can't be one person.
Well, I would say a committee, but you know, this committee then is gonna have to be attended. You're gonna have to make sure that you're, you know, putting in the time for this. I mean, if we're gonna develop this, our own committee to appoint and vet committee members, I mean, I don't know.
Well, I guess I just like something more. We don't need to swing to the other end of the spectrum. What I'm seeing, I'm just not feeling really comfortable.
Well, I feel like you have a vested interest in this, and that's why you're. I think if we were appointing this person to, you know, the health board, and we were filling a hole, you probably wouldn't have this much of an interest in the vetting and who are we interviewing and what are their interests and qualifications.
Sure.
That's just my thought. I think
No.
this is ZBA and planning is right up your
That's a
alley.
fair
There's
observation.
a
And I do have a
situation
vested
going on.
interest. I
Yes.
have a vested interest in all the committees
You
in
know,
the county.
yes.
represent
I just
my
think
constituents.
we're not looking at that. I mean, because we fill holes on committees all the time, and that's because we have no one. So I mean, I don't think that we should look over someone's resume and say, you know, he's got all this experience. He might be, you know, this guy, he's a nurse and he says he's going to be too pro health. I can't have him on that board. You know, I mean, I don't. I just don't wanna shoot people away that apply. I mean,
How many
there's
people-
not really many we get, that's the
How
biggest
many-
thing.
how many
Like, I know we
boards?
want applicants and you wanna see how many apply, but it's not there. You know, there's not 10 people applying to be on 2 spots on
I
ZBA.
understand that, but I'm not sure that we're getting a notification. Our recruitment process is alerting people to the availability.
Mark,
of
we
these
do this,
positions.
this is the first time we've advertised for boards. How many times should we pay to put articles in the paper and write-ups in the paper and advertisements on our website for one person to apply for 5 positions? I mean, it's not like we're not trying. There's no one here that's trying to undermine and put people in places. We can't get the people. And even with the advertising process, Bart, I mean, what do we want? A full-page, color front page ad that says, hey, come on, we're seeking board appointment. I mean, we have done, and we've jumped through the hoops to
I'm not
get
asking
people.
for that. Can you tell me what we do now to recruit nominations to serve on board?
As of right now, we usually just put out something on our website and something in both papers. That's it. And it's usually a little blurb. It's not very big at all. Just a little tiny county seeks appointments for classified section.
Well, I don't recall seeing that nominations were being requested.
This one was from the last, we still posted it, we didn't put an end date on it, we didn't put in apply by this date, end by this date, so there was nothing, I think it just got thrown in there.
That's my concern.
Wouldn't it be safe to say, though, that we probably get more volunteers, and that's what they are, by word of mouth?
Yes.
And that's exactly what this one is.
Because
I'm a little cautious about becoming too cumbersome. If it's already difficult to get people, and then we start adding a lot of scrutiny to that, which I don't disagree we should do, but if we had a huge influx of interest, that might become a little more important. But I also wouldn't want to be looked at as being the one handpicking to match our values as well. I mean, I think it has to be open to everybody with different points of view, and I don't know how we can really determine that by any kind of vetting. And should we? Should we determine whether they're liberal or thinking or conservative or pro this or anti this? I think we have to be careful with that. I don't know that we could actually do that effectively.
Well, there's certainly no assurance, but I think when you look at harmonizing land use practices, I think you can look at the types of candidates and their background and expertise and make some rational decisions on what interests are represented on that board. You're not going to be right all
But
the
this
time.
is the thing. We have vacancies on the ZBA, correct? And we have vacancies on the planning commission?
No, we only have one would be on ZBA.
One
There's a
ZBA.
possible someone stepping down on planning.
Okay. And of all the people that go to, that are involved pro or against the windmills, you would think our office would be flooded with people that would
You
want
would
to sit
think.
on the ZBA and the planning commission.
Especially
Because
when
that's
they-
where they can make their vote really count. And we have one person?
Well, that's why I wonder. I hadn't.
I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like, it's local government by default. So
Well, if we
nobody wants
want,
to do it.
we can just say, forget it, and we'll put another ad in the paper, and we'll see
But
what
I
we
mean,
get.
our office should be, as many times as this is filled, or the planning commission is filled, or people are calling Pete's office, or writing letters to the editor, pro or against wind energy, those people should be knocking down our door to get seats on both planning commission and the ZBA. Because they're the ones that are gonna be able to control it, or the first step of controlling it. And they're not.
I mean, over the last 4 years, we're just glad to get somebody on any of these boards. The only board that we've had any confrontation or discrepancy and stuff with has been the veterans. Everything else is just, oh my God, there's somebody gonna take that job, great, sign them up.
So, I mean, there probably should be a process, but we don't have anyone to process. I mean, I don't,
I just think it's something we need to work on.
I mean, not in other counties, it's like cutthroat to get on these boards because it's a stepping stone for something, or it's somebody's got an agenda or whatever. But it's, I mean, okay, how many boards do we have?
15, 20.
Okay, and how many spots?
Shoot,
on each
we've
board,
got-
5.
We've got anywhere from probably about 7,
Okay, and
7 to 9.
how many vacancies do we have right now? Just ballpark.
Probably about 10, 15.
No, just back to my
In
original
other
question.
communities, there's waiting lists.
I think we could do a better job of marketing these vacancies. I don't see it when I read the paper, I don't see it when I read the website, so I'm
Well,
questioning how
well,
active we really are being
well,
making this.
Okay, which paper are you reading?
The Argus Press,
Which papers are we putting it in?
the Independent,
And the Independent, and it's been on the website.
I don't know, maybe we should do Meridian Weekly, they do half the county, maybe we should do Flint Journal, State Journal, I don't know.
okay. Well, maybe it's just
I don't know.
me, you know, and I do have a vested interest in this one, Jeremy. And it goes back to my 10 years on the Woodhull Township Planning Commission, the recent update of our comprehensive development plan. So,
But you would think people would just be, especially ZBA and Planning Commission, they'd be flooding our office right now.
You would think.
well, if I'm the only one that's concerned about this, you know, I don't want to be barking up the wrong tree. I just,
I don't know.
it would be nice if the community obviously was more active when we had those volunteers. I just want to make sure that we're not missing an opportunity and we're getting the word out as much as we can to recruit those candidates. Rather than word of mouth, and now we've got an SUP pending and we've got a guy who works in a plant who, I got a good idea how that vote's gonna go. That's what word of mouth, you know, does.
And I don't think anybody here has any lack of concern. I think we have a concern that, just like you said, the applicants just aren't there. But I think we'd be better served by figuring out a way to advertise maybe more. I think with our new live streaming,
If I
I
knew there
think
was a
that's
rush,
a good addition.
if I knew there was a rush to fill this, Mike, I would have brought 3 candidates for consideration. This is, you know, I'm seeing it and was added to the agenda. That's what I'm concerned about.
But I would be, you would bring 3 candidates that then support your view though. So then we're not taking that, you know, we're not being down the middle and fair to how we're appointing
I
them.
would bring 3 candidates with diverse background and let the commission have a conversation about who they represent, and then look at the current makeup of the ZBA and see who best fits that vacancy.
Well, I think, you know, it's up to the board. You know, you guys decide what you want to do, whether you want to move this forward or whether you want to do a new advertising pack and continue on with Mr. Hassan if he's willing to serve again. I mean,
Yeah, we probably need to do, you're right, we probably need to do more advertising. I mean, he has bigger readership than any of all of our newspapers combined in the county online. I don't think he's posting that, we haven't asked him to post it. You know, do we need to have a selection committee where we're looking at geography, where everybody's from? And like you say, they're diverse backgrounds and all this stuff. Maybe, I know other counties do that.
Yeah, most public bodies will have a nominating committee for this type of function. I just don't think it's beyond Shiawassee County to give it serious consideration.
And that's part of why like, we have a lot of county commissioners who end up being on these boards because they still want to be involved and they know that there's openings there's always openings. I don't know.
Well, I would respectfully request that we postpone this appointment, and I would like to make a concerted effort to bring candidates back for the board's discussion at next month's meeting.
Parliamentary had a procedure, how do we do this?
well, there's a motion on the table to approve.
The motion can be withdrawn, it can be, approval of the second, it can be voted on and turned down, it can be a motion to amend, there's all, yeah.
What's the number on the ZBA right now? Members currently that are functioning on?
7.
But one is not voting, so it's 6-6, so if we leave the other guy on, then we're actually going 180 degrees of what Mark's talking about on this, and that's not fair either, so
I'm not
there's a
sure.
problem with that.
There's 7 currently on.
There's 7 and one has to excuse himself.
So there's only 6 voting.
So there's 6 and they're at a deadlock 3-3.
Right, that's what I heard.
So we're stuck.
But they're legally bound to make a decision.
Yes.
I don't think we're stuck. I think we're asked to postpone this to spend some additional time.
Is there anything this next month that's before this meeting that's like,
Yes, Proline again.
and And that's withdrawing in Woodhall or in the city? Woodhall.
All right, motion on the table. Who made the motion?
I did. And it was supported by Commissioner McMaster.
If we vote on it, move it to the full board so everybody can discuss it further.
Well, I don't know, that's a tough one. I get where you're coming from too, but again, my concern is that we're picking a particular committee. And I heard what Chairman Root said, that we don't do that for everybody. I agree with you that we need to advertise more and be, have more selection, but we just simply don't. But I also understand how this can affect that committee as well. But is that so wrong? I'm not sure. Is that wrong? I mean, if we go the other direction and say, well, let's wait to get somebody who might not be so interested in this particular vote, is that right? I don't know. It's a
Yeah, but how are you gonna know that? I mean, are you gonna,
Exactly.
everyone you get, are you gonna say,
Exactly.
what is your vested interest in pro-life?
Again, there's a couple issues here. This came late, it wasn't even, I never saw the letter. It happened on Friday in advance of next month's meeting. It just doesn't smell great. And all I'm asking for is postponing it for some additional time so we can consider some additional candidates along with Mr. Lamb, and we can have a thoughtful conversation about their background and expertise to carry out land use decision-making for the county.
So I would make a motion then, that we amend the initial.
You're not on the committee.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we have a
I'm just
motion.
suggesting.
Yeah.
Or if you do a roll call vote.
A motion to postpone is a superseding motion. If that's the motion.
But we have one that's made the motion and one supported.
The original motion. If somebody moves to postpone, that's a superseding motion. If there's a second for it, then it can go to a vote on whether or not to postpone.
I would move that we postpone,
You can't do it, we have to do it, right? If you need to.
Committee members would.
What's that?
Committee members would have to make the motion.
Okay, so I move that we postpone this till next month's meeting.
I would support that.
And we continue discussion on the whole process.
And meanwhile, we'll let Mr. Hisson remain in that position until a successor is appointed. Okay, so as far as the original motion then, do we?
Right now, you're moving to postpone, you've got a second. You would take a vote on whether you're gonna postpone.
Okay. So it's been moved by Commissioner McMaster, supported by Commissioner Coscarelli to postpone.
Quick question, who votes?
The three of us.
Committee members.
Committee.
Just clear.
That's why I said to move it, we should all vote and move it on.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I'm gonna vote no as well.
So what do we do when those are split now?
You can't.
I didn't think,
Is it a 2-2 vote?
ties, you can't make
All
ties.
right.
Is it a
I wanna
2-2
make a
vote?
tie.
Yeah,
2-1 vote right now.
Is there another vote? Or I thought it was 2-2.
the committee members is comprised of myself, Commissioner Bartz, and Commissioner McMaster. There's three people on
Well,
this
it's a
committee.
committee that votes.
So it's 2-1.
2-1 in favor? It doesn't mean at the committee of the whole that it couldn't be revived. You know, somebody could move to, at the committee of the whole, put this person forward again, and if there's a second, then there's a vote. If there's a majority on it, then they'll put forward.
This is the committee recommendation to the committee of the whole. Thank you for that clarification. Okay. So the motion passed to postpone, and that's the recommendation to the committee of the whole until we solicit some additional nominations and bring it back for discussion at next month's meeting. Agenda item
Everything the same for this.
number
As
9.
well.
I'd accept a motion to consider appointing Rick Lamb to the Brownfield Authority Board effective immediately through December 31 of 2017, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
I'm postponing. I say until we straighten this out, we'll make no more recommendations for
Across the board,
anything.
across the whole county.
That's how you wanna do it, and it's gonna be countywide.
I think we owe it to the county and the residents to spend a little more time on it.
And we need to set up and I don't know what day we do or what meeting we do in, but Mr. Chair, we need to set up some kind of, we need to appoint some kind of a nominating process committee.
Well, what I'd like, if I may, Commissioner McMaster, is to better understand, do we have a written policy or procedure for how board appointments are made in the county? Other than, this is the way we've always done it. I'd like to see something in writing that county staff directs them to put this in the newspaper and solicit those nominations. I'd just be curious what, I think I understand what past practice is. Is it written in a county procedure or policy?
For it.
Okay,
Probably something in the charter.
I would really appreciate seeing that,
I'll try to get you something.
and I hope something exists. Thank you.
So that's gonna delay that, and I just hopefully it does not delay the work of Fusion, Great Lakes Fusion.
It doesn't matter, or it's postponed.
No, I don't think that postponing these delays the business. I think they have ample membership to continue rendering decisions as they have been. Agenda item number 10, I'd accept a motion, or I'm sorry, that's not, it's just community development monthly reports from Mr. Preston.
I've been causing more trouble around
We
here.
don't need a motion to see you, do we?
No. Real quick, 9 building permits, 23 zoning permits, 57 enforcement actions for the month of March. I will say that just as far as building permit activity, we're looking at about 10% over last year's revenue. So it's been busy, but for some reason just kind of fell flat in March. Also, I understand, unless there's any questions on that,
On the enforcement,
57 items. Some of those.
any big drastic things that we've been struggling to get?
There are a couple of, we have one particular issue that we've had an ongoing violation on. A particular person did pass away. It went through a probate session. The next individual inherited the property. We were making great strides to clean it up, and unfortunately that individual passed away too. So now we're looking at possibly, if this is not sorted out among the family, doing what we did in Middlebury Township years back, where we actually had an employee of the county become the executor of the estate or go in and probate, and then that way the property was cleaned up by the highest bidder. We do have a particular issue in Mr. Barsh's neighborhood that we've been trying to resolve for a number of, probably about a year now, with building improvements and such that were going on. Lucky to have the sheriff here. I think our code enforcement has contacted his office to get an escort out there. There is a locked gate, which we may have to rely on the prosecutor's office to get at least some way to get in there and take a look at what's going on. But other than that, same old
So
stuff.
the one where a couple of individuals have passed away, is that just the cars, equipment, kind of stuff, or?
It's a 10-acre non-conforming junkyard that expanded to probably additional 14 acres of junk and dirt. So we made great strides while the first individual was alive, cleaning up a 50 by 50 area each time we went out there, so every couple of months, and some real headway was made up front, but now it's stopped again.
This isn't the gentleman that appeared a couple months ago for us, is it?
No, that's not Mr. Stringham, no. Mr. Stringham did make great strides in cleaning up his property, and we thank him very much. If there's no other questions on that, I do have you've been requested that we had an update on the wind turbine. We have been through the administrative process. We have been through. We've been through administrative review procedures for the special land use. We've been through height and discussion. That does not mean that any great strides or decisions were made yet, but the Planning Commission will continue to discuss that. We'll come back with a recommendation after we kind of get a feel of what the Planning Commission looks at as we get through. Each time that we provide the planning commission with language, we essentially give them 2 proposals. So each one has a proposal 1 or a proposal 2. These right here are what have been put on the website today, and they account for noise provisions. We do have, I'm going to go through that cord yet. We do have additional information that we have to get on the subsonic low frequency decibels. There's just not a lot of information out there, so we've been relying on what some of the other communities are doing, pulled that all together, and their stuff doesn't make real sense either, and that's kind of spelled out in that memo.
How are we feeling on the timeline? The stuff's moving along, I know we talked about.
Yep.
You know, every month you're gonna do a different part of it, but how are we? Are we on track?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's our target?
I can't recall right offhand, but I think we're going to try to get into your hands late summer, early fall. We're leaving ourselves a month buffer in there for us to come back after we get the temperature of the planning commission, come back with an ordinance all written out. We probably will ask for a legal counsel review as well of that before we get too far along, because we don't want to get it to you guys and then legal counsel look at it and say there may be issue. So it seems on track. The opposition, I call the opposition in general, but have had appointed members speak on behalf of the group, which has helped out immensely in the public comment period.
So timeline for understanding, having an idea of, based on height and setbacks and number of wind turbines, et cetera, for revenue for local municipalities in the county. That will not be till the end of the summer, we won't have an idea, probably? Apex Energy said that they were going to provide us some construction value. I'll reach back out to them, we're still dealing with their Met towers, but I'll reach back out to them, get that number. They kind of want to know what's your height going to be, I mean, a 400-foot tower, 600-foot tower. I'm going to ask them to email me a particular number. I'll run that through our equalization system with the depreciation, and I can give you a 5-year projection. The reason I bring this up, Farm City Dinner, Lions and Farm Bureau was a week ago. They had a speaker and talking about all sorts of alternative energy, but she talked about wind turbines, and she gave examples of the Thom and Gratiot, how much money's come in. And then everyone was coming to me after the meeting saying, okay, how much money's coming in? And they said, I don't know.
We'll see if I can get you those numbers by the end of the week. I will be back on Thursday because I have the magic folder with all the original
And
signatures.
it's not going to be perfect. I mean, it's...
No, I'm going to put it over there as a guess.
Yeah.
So we'll do our best, though, to kind of outline why.
Thank you.
Can I ask a semi-related question? Huron County has it on the ballot for a vote for May 2nd or May 6th. How does that work? Is that for additional wind turbines? Are you familiar with that?
I'm not familiar about it, as in read in the articles. I've heard the audience members and Apex Energy kind of spat back and forth about it. The opposition, again, quote-unquote opposition, has said that, look, Huron County is tired of them. And the previous representative of Apex Energy said, yeah, they are tired of them because they're all over the dang place.
Yeah.
And so I think there's, general agreement there, but I don't think it's because we hate these. I just think that, we've reached a threshold that there's
And I wondered if
too many.
that's the rationale for it being placed on a ballot. I mean, if it could be placed on a ballot, more people find out about that. I think we're going to be hearing a whole lot about that. But I know they already have them there in Huron County.
Quite a number.
And they want an additional, the pro people want 150 additional wind turbines there. And I think that's what they're voting on.
Okay.
But there could be a ballot for this project.
But all my understanding is you can't say no to them. You just get sued up the river.
I think with this,
There's two things. There's the vote of the people, and local officials, but
I'm just curious.
I mean, it's happened in other parts of the state where they have had elections, referendums to overturn local decisions that have been made or to suspend stuff.
But usually that you can't put something out that's your decision. You can't put that out for a vote, advisory vote. But if you make an ordinance, an ordinance, you can, there's a procedure for them to gather certain signatures and force to whether they can turn back that decision he made as an ordinance. I don't want to expound on it too much, it would take some research, but that's more the way it goes. You can't just say, hey, we want an advisory vote on something that's your decision. But you can, but there is a procedure for petitioning for a vote on an ordinance that's made. And they get a certain number of voters to sign it, then it can go for a vote on whether or not they're going to, you know, invalidate that ordinance. That doesn't make a new ordinance, but invalidate too. I think, again, it would take some.
Thanks, it's kind of a little side thing there, I just was curious.
Any other questions for Mr. Preston? Did you have anything additional? No. Curious, were you struck by anything in doing your research and what you've laid out here?
No, I think we're finding the same, just kind of mixed bags. We're looking a lot at what other communities that have gone through it or, are expecting potential wind turbines. We kind of use that as our barometer. We have, I believe it was you that forwarded me the email that Michigan State has changed some of their zoning type of, or their recommended zoning for these, and we've started incorporating that. We will have to go back to account for some of the height changes and such in our previous language. But I guess nothing earth-shattering. The low frequency bothers me because that is a strong concern of the citizens, and it's not expected that a planning and zoning staff would have acoustical engineers on staff to be able to explain that precisely. I do believe, and I've said it a couple times, at some point the county will need to look at possibly retaining someone who can speak that language and can provide us input.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Preston.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. I'm going out the door really quick.
Okay, that brings us to item number 11, other agenda items. Commissioners, any other agenda items that we haven't talked about?
It's not necessarily an agenda item. I was approached by one of the township clerks asking if, because this meeting is broadcast, or what is it, live stream? Whatever the technical. She said, how come no other meetings that are held? I know it could only be meetings that were held in here because this is where the equipment is, but she said, why can't planning be done? Can planning be done, or is it expensive to do this, or is it?
You just have a videographer, someone to run it.
Yeah, Patty does it for us.
Oh, okay. That answers that question then. I mean, she just said, can it?
And not all board meetings be here.
No,
That's
but
another
she said
too.
whatever meets here, why couldn't planning be done the same way? So that helps.
Okay.
Of course, the next question will be, can you get a video like the proven?
Anything else? All right. This will be our last call to the public.
Hi,
Yes.
Tom Yankee again. I just would like to ask regarding the alternative energy programs. Someone had brought to my attention that somewhere in the county there is already, or a company is going to be putting in a solar farm. And I've heard nothing more on that. And these are solar panels. Is there anything on that? That's
He
all.
would have been the one to ask, but I'm not aware of anything in this county. I know in Eaton County, there's a project, there's a 500-acre project.
Antrim Township Supervisor was approached. He reached out to me, but no one has ever gotten, he gave him my number and everything to call for the county, but I never heard from anyone.
So there isn't any, at this point, there isn't any solar farm?
Well, not that we're aware of.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be going on and we wouldn't be aware of it,
I've also heard the rumor, but I don't have any.
So
facts.
they're going in, they're looking for 300 to 500-acre farms. And they like to only have one farm, and they like to have they like to find an individual that owns more than that, so if they need to expand, so they're looking for landowners that have like a contiguous, 100 or 1,000 acre farm or whatever, and it's gotta meet all these requirements. And then some energy companies are requiring, like DTE requires as to be visible, so like on I-96, outside of Novi, you'll see the DTE has one. They like to put all theirs up along the freeway so people see them. But in our neighboring counties, there's construction going on.
Is that something, one second question to that, is that something that's gotta come before you folks to be
I
done?
have no idea.
Can
what
anybody
zoning's
put
like
that
for
on
solar.
the
I
farm?
have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know enough about
Okay.
the zoning.
I mean,
Ordinance.
I guess the smart thing would be, we need to ask Pete and we need to be looking at that because people are being approached, so, 3 months from now, it could be a whole different story. And we have interstate acreage here, so.
I'll follow up with Pete and ask him about that. Great. Any additional public comments before we adjourn this meeting? All right, seeing none, we are adjourned. Would the commissioners like 5 minutes before we
Yes,
convene? Okay. We'll convene at, let's convene at even 6:15.
What you guys have in regards to that land issue, does that come back up on Wednesday or no? I'm just kind of confused.
The appointment for boards,
Yeah.
unless it gets.
I thought so because the committee with them. Can I ask about this resident make a comment? You want this back or?
No,
Oh.
I think I have it now.
Cool. Appreciate it. Sure.
Sure.
Why are people leaving these boards? I mean, this song, you said this term expired.
He was just one at the end of the year that didn't want to be back on.
He lives over in McLean Township, he's a city of Owasso.
Yeah.
Building inspector.
Yeah.
He's just too busy.
Yeah,
He's
but
actually
overall,
a state guy I know fairly well.
yeah, I think it was you.
So if he lives in Clayton Township, now he's sitting in Shiawassee County. You can't survive at all.
I'm still trying to figure this out.
He lives in Shiawassee, he lives in Clayton Township, he lives in Tennessee County. Guaranteed that. So he's probably.
Bring it up, if you're talking about it, then.
Jeff.
Here's the point there. Pretty much
Take care of that problem.
I believe he did. I didn't even ask him today, I asked him
Or.
Everything is like.
I listen to you speak, I can't do
That's what he gets.
You know, they're settling down, and they've had sometimes they see business running an extra street, you know?
And then also,
You know, when you have.
Oh, I gotta go. I
Was that
last
the grocery
week.
Yeah, that's been kind of the affairs. They don't see the board as doing what they want, so they are serving their needs, so they want to step up and bring a different point of view in. So that's why that was always flooded. And you have a lot of veterans that want to be actively involved. You know, a veteran, they wear that with, pride, be involved and helping be a service officer. These other boards, we just, we staff, we can't staff, we got, I don't know how many, 10 to 15, probably just sitting, we got one whole board that has no one.
Wait, what?
We got one whole board that has no one.
Which?
The Construction Board of Appeals and the Ag Preservation Board. We have one commissioner that's on Ag Preservation. No one else even involved.
If I remember right, the issue with the brownfield meeting, because they hadn't met in a long time, so you guys had to actually go and make sure that everybody was still.
Yeah, we had, and then there were a few of them that passed away.
Wow.
So, I mean, we're trying to get this, and this is a meeting, because right now we have 5 willing to serve.
Yeah.
But one had just had a heart attack and couldn't.
Or you're talking about the brownfields?
Yeah, so it's like, we do need these positions relatively quick to continue business with it. It's a 10-person board, or 9-person board. So, we can only find, I mean, of the 9 that we found, 2 of them have passed away. Another 2 have moved to another community.
And I'm wondering if I can squeeze this in before the next meeting starts, but the way that you guys do this, going out to the artists and the independents about, publicizing and putting that on the website, is that like written in the county charter or something like that? Or is that just like?
I think it's just customary to do it, just to get it out. You guys are
doing these for as long as.
you guys are our main source to get out to everybody. You guys are every day, so the independent, it really doesn't benefit us to get it. We do, but, I mean, you can run it more.
So you guys are gonna check your
Yeah.
charter as it calls?
Charter or some sort. You see what exactly we have. I don't know if there's anything.
As far as.
There's no procurement plan when it comes to getting the business. So I mean, this probably falls under the same category. How we do business. You probably don't have anything just out of courtesy. And I mean, probably is genuinely out of courtesy that we don't advertise. Could just put it on the website. That's what we do.
Sure. Oh, you have no legal obligation to do these things.
So I mean, there is, we do have, I mean, we're hosting it in places. I mean, but either, you know, people don't get the independent because they don't have the mailbox for it, people are subscribing to the darkness for them every day. Either way, you're still throwing money to put these ads on that probably aren't getting seen. Again, so I mean, I don't know what the answer really is. Except, I'm sure you guys would take our money for a home page and
I think it's from insurance. Yeah. There you go.
Like this guy here, this guy watches the stream. You know, like we've been just because he's probably going to look at how willing to serve. I did what they wanted to do. They added a resume. It's another my qualifications. So just putting my letter in things. But now that's still not you. So I want to be part. You know, I mean, it could be discouraging. Maybe it was I like anything that's going to process can always be a project.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.
Last month I actually know we need to have a letter. We got to have 3 days of Friday. That's a bigger modification. It's not like That's it.
call the meeting of the Finance and Administrative Committee to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, call to the public. Any public comments? I don't have any cards, but if there's anyone here that'd like to speak, you're welcome to. Okay, seeing no members of the public. To agenda item number 4, consider authorizing resolution number 17-04-07, requesting reallocation of assets, directing MERS to reallocate $137,000 from Division 20 to Division 19 of the county pension plan to correct an imbalance, and authorize board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
Been moved by Mr. Groff. Their support? Brandon Marks is not here, so I'd support that.
For you, sir.
He's here in spirit, I'm sure. Okay, so it's been moved and supported. Any questions? I would just ask our finance director, this seems like a standard operating procedure where there's some imbalance and...
Yeah, it's a group that's, it's split its retirement benefit from one type to another. And so the contributions that come in for people who work from the beginning through the new plan, they had a formula and it didn't work out right. So basically there was too much in the new plan and not enough in the old plan that had a longer life to cover, let's say. So it's standard to correct something like that.
And it sounds like historically the departments were accounting individually, not aggregating at the county level, and that's changed now, so that's why this happened?
No, this has mostly come about through trying to reduce the outstanding pension contribution liability situation by altering the benefits so that everything isn't the 100% defined benefit plan of the past. And to lower that obligation, all you can do is work forward. So we have groups that agreed to change their claim document so they have a liability that needs to be paid from the past, and moving forward they have a different lower liability. So it was sorting out, it's like you have one group, now it's two groups. You have to cover a larger old balance with your current contributions.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Call the vote. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Item 5, consider authorizing the exercise of the purchase option under the lease purchase agreement between the county and the city of Corunna, DDA, dated 8/24/07, to acquire the land and building known as the Capitan Building, 149 East Corunna Avenue, Corunna, and authorize the board chair to execute all required documents.
Make that motion.
Okay, I would support that. Again, questions, just so I'm tracking this. That's the current building where,
Where the health department offices and the drain commissioner and emergency services are between the two courthouses.
okay, and this is the one that, I'm sorry, if I'm not confusing, for $50,000 then?
Yes, there's been lease payments over the course of 10 years that totaled nearly $900,000, and the purchase option at the end of the agreement that was executed 10 years ago was for $50,000 plus closing costs. But at this time, we do not have a definitive legal description of the property, and there's been some incursions during the 10-year period by either City of Corunna or DDA into the property that was loosely described in the original agreement. So at this point, we want to make sure we're on record as having exercised the option to purchase, but we'll come back once we have a real legal description and for permission to make the payment of $50,000.
The DDA wasn't willing to waive the $50,000 for the county?
No.
I tried to offer a dollar.
Everybody
do it.
tried.
I think one of the points that needs to be made, though, this isn't a frivolous expenditure. Because the lease payment was $86,000 a
It
year.
varied between 89 and 86.
And then my understanding is it's already budgeted for the year, so by this purchase, we actually save, this year, we saved 30-some
No, we
thousand.
made the last payment of
Oh, we did.
86 in February.
Oh, okay, so it's not in
We
this
fully
year.
paid our, we fully paid our lease terms.
But we didn't budget it this year?
Not 50,000.
Okay. All right.
There's funds available, but it was not budgeted.
But if we were to enter into a lease,
It would cost us more, I'm sure.
so it could,
So we
over
say-
the next decade, we could clearly make the case and state that purchase of this building, we're saving the county over $1 million
Yes.
to keep everybody where they're at.
Yeah.
It'll join some of our properties together, because then this hooks into it'll join the district court property and building,
Mhm.
and now it'll be right next to the courthouse. So the property description issue is over the courtyard, correct?
Yes.
Is that what we're?
And there's like some, was the sidewalk or
Sidewalk
strip
issue.
of grass
The
in there?
sidewalk and then the alleyway that cuts into the property, so there's a
Yeah.
few things we need to look at. We don't have everything from there, they were gonna get us a legal description, we were gonna try to do it this month, but we just wanted to make sure we exercise the option and then we can go forward once we get that, because it would be better for the county to have both parcels. See, the Capitan building sits, it's two parcels, but it sits on like one and then a quarter of another parcel. And some of my emailing back and forth, it sounds like the DDA wants a strip of land right next to the building, which I don't think we should, if we're buying the property, we ought to take all of it that's deeded to it. And that's what we're waiting to make sure, to see exactly.
I would
what the-
concur, because in the event down the road, depending on conditions of buildings, financial resources, if you wanted to build something from street to street, you don't want to have an issue of a strip that's a courtyard that belongs to somebody else in the middle of the potential construction project.
So that's what we're still waiting on. When I was reading his emails, it sounded as though he said you would be purchasing the building and the ground it occupies. I don't know if that means the ground directly beneath it, as in you don't own anything. As soon as you step out the doors, you don't own that property, it's still city's. So we're still, the parking lot's all the city of Corona. So we're waiting, that's what we're waiting on, but we just want to make sure that we have. I exercised our option, so we didn't have to go, because this ended in February, so we didn't have to go into some sort of lease or rent by the month, or, so I exercised it, but I think we should have board approval. They've been willing to waive the fees, knowing that we're committed to at least resolving this property purchasing.
Or do you think they're willing to, okay, if they split that property to have their little courtyard or that little strip, would they be willing to do that at the expense of losing the sale of the building, you think?
They have told me we're getting the building for a very good deal, though.
We've already paid it, we already paid $1 million for it.
How much have they put into it in 10 years?
No, we've done the
We
maintenance for
did
the
all
last
of
10
it, that was
years.
part of the agreement, we did all the repairs,
We've
maintained.
kind of like rented a home, I guess, right? Is that what you call it? Jeff?
Just a couple things that I'd like to add to this. So, yeah, as this comes down, you know, I think our chairman and, you know, we all have to go back and forth, because we have been doing all the maintenance on that parking lot and the buildings and stuff for 10 years. Also, for a little
So
history.
this is the parking lot to the east of Capitan Building and District Court Building,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. But for a little history, so to somebody, I gotta see how I word this. To somebody saying, oh, you paid $827,000 for the Capitan building, and you're now paying $50,000 on the lease option purchase to buy the building. But if you go back to the history, at one time, when the city owned that, there was a street that went through there, right behind there, and that parking lot was dirt. And we're not buying this from the city of Corona, it's come from the DDA. So at the time, 10 years ago, Shiawassee County, the DDA, and the city of Corunna sat down and negotiated this deal. So it wasn't anything the commissioners at the time just threw up a bunch of money on. That parking lot was restructured, curved, and paved. The fencing around the sheriff's secure area was put up. There was work done there. The actual sheriff's home that was on the other side was either torn down or moved out. So this was a large project. And the DDA financed all this with the city of Corunna, the DDA, and Shiawassee County putting money into this. So actually, as far as all that money going to buy this building, it was part of a larger project that was done, and this all came together. Like I said, I talked to a couple people, said, oh, the parking lot used to be gravel, you'd walk through it, track gravel, mud into the carpet and stuff like that. And I don't know, some of the people I talked to, some of the ex-commissioners, and it's been 10 years, didn't remember everything. But there was actually, if we could figure it out through the Argus Press, or I don't know who, but the scope of actually what happened back then, it was a $3 or $4 million project that took place for all that to come together and to become what it is today. So,
I mean, it's moving forward.
So it's not just buying the building, it was a complete project.
Right, but
that
for
was
us moving
accomplished.
forward, $50,000,
Is a
we
very
own the land, we own the building, and then it joins up, it sits between our circuit courthouse and our district courthouse, and I think we can't go wrong.
But I'm
We're
just
saving
not sure
money,
we
and
should
we're
still be
getting
doing the
it
snow
joined.
plowing of the city of Corunna's parking lot. There's something, we just need to make sure everything's negotiated out.
And that strip of,
And Shiawassee County's getting their fair
That's
shake
true.
on the deal.
Okay, if you keep us apprised of that, those issues going forward.
Yeah, that was some history I found out.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Russ taking care of
Thank
it.
you.
I want to make sure those things are ironed out. Maybe, the problem with the parking though, if we get into that battle, they'll tell us they have streets to clear, so that'll be their last priority, and we'll have judges that'll want their walkways clear.
Right. And I'm not saying that.
So,
we will.
what we were thinking is negotiating costs and time that we're gonna have to put into clearing their parking lot. I mean, we'll do it, but maybe there'll be, in that some we can negotiate.
And I'm not saying this commissioner one way or the other, I'm just saying it's all things that this group needs to look at. We need to make sure that we, as they say they did, and I think they did 10 years ago, negotiated in the best interest of the county. We want to make sure that 10 years down the road, they're saying
I
the
think
same
we
thing.
need to look at
about
all
us.
that, but I think it's a good opportunity, and I think we need to grab it.
Great, thank you for that information, Commissioners, it's helpful. It's been moved and supported. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 6, accept the motion to consider authorizing the contract with Commercial Control Systems, Inc. for upgrades to the temperature control system, Shiawassee County Courthouse, in the amount of $20,800 to be paid in 5 equal payments of $4,160, and the maintenance agreement in the amount of $2,455 per year for 3 consecutive years to be paid out of the building and grounds contract expenditure account 101-265 860, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
Support? Any comments or questions? Commissioner Bartz, are you involved with this at all, or?
Tim might know what.
I can
Oh,
answer
Tim?
What it would do is it would give us, so we would be able to go on the computer and basically operate the building, the temperature controls from the computer to raise or lower temperatures in some of the rooms and the whole building, because right now we don't have that option. Basically on the weekends, it's running like full bore. And we'll see a cost savings in energy use too by doing this. It's something that we didn't have option to before. It's a little bit new, but all the stuff is pretty much there. All we need is the front end. And this is basically the front end
Okay,
of it.
thank you. It's been moved and supported. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 7, consider authorizing the 4 service agreements with Honeywell Building Solutions totaling $31,460 annually, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
I would support that. Anyone give us just a Commissioner Bartz? Please.
Tim may wanna talk more than me, but, these 4 service agreements were around 71,000, I believe, right, Patty?
Yeah.
So this was around $71,000 with the Tim's went through it, Patty's went through it, I think our chairman, they've all went down and have gone through this stuff. This is all stuff we can cut out of Honeywell. But then, and I know Jeremy doesn't want me to push, but then I do have to push towards getting some more help in buildings and grounds to cover some of this stuff. Because there's simple maintenance things that were being done under these contracts that we're cutting out that we still have to accomplish on a yearly basis.
So when you say help staffing capacity to help?
As I talked about last month, we're working on figuring out, Patty and Jeremy and Tim, of how we're gonna bring Al, our last maintenance guy, to full-time. He's part-time now. But this is a $40,000 savings. Jeremy's working on the numbers, so I'm not, unless Tim has more, and Tim and Patty are working out the numbers to show you gentlemen how it's actually gonna save us money. But there is work here that somebody still has to do, and we have to have manpower to do it.
Thank you. Tim, do you want to fill in?
I can a little bit. When I first started here, these contracts were in place. After a year being here, I was looking at them and I was going, we weren't getting what I thought was best interest of the county for what we were paying for. A lot of it was paying for stuff that might possibly happen that may never happen, like equipment. And most of it was on new equipment that isn't probably going to go down. I mean, it could, you never know. But we took a lot of that out of it. And there is some maintenance, like filters and stuff. We were doing some of the filters anyway, but there is some maintenance. We're taking over a bunch of some of the stuff that they, minor stuff. It's nothing major. I mean, if we all need anything, we can always call them and they'll be more than happy to help. But a lot of it will be on an as-needed basis now, rather than, something that might
Paying for something
possibly
we might need.
potentially happen, which there's a great cost savings there, I think.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Kind of along those lines of when we talk about moving somebody to halftime to full-time and juggling all this stuff. I know at one time there was talk of hiring somebody for the summer to do some grass mowing, or we still, I haven't seen that in here, but is that?
We haven't done anything yet as far as summer goes. This person, if Al was moved up to full-time, he would definitely be doing a multitude of things. And part of that would be probably some of the grass mowing also. It's not like there isn't plenty to do.
Okay, I was just wondering.
And
Because I remember
the
we talked
discussion's
about
been is we have this new $40,000 lawnmower. We don't want to just put any volunteer on it
I
also.
understand
We
that.
need somebody that is accountable, because if a volunteer runs over something and wrecks the mower or the tractor, it's like, whoops, I'm sorry, and they just go home. So,
I understand.
and we went through the last few years, even before you gentlemen were here, of the accountability of volunteers and jail help, prisoners, and how all these guys work out. And a lot of times it just isn't cost effective.
Okay, it's been moved and supported. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 8, consider authorizing budget amendment number 17.2 and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
I would support it. Patty, can you?
Yes, this was a result of the sheriff's office and Sheriff Golden and I went to talk about what they're doing a little bit, but they brought in $15,000 worth of unbudgeted income, and the budget amendment serves to recognize the income in the budget and provide an expenditure budget so that they can utilize the money.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah.
even out.
I see that. Is there anything you'd like to add to that, Sheriff?
From property we obtained through the 1033 program, and we sold that off, and we're using those monies just for equipment, things around the sheriff's office.
Yep, okay, thank you. It's been moved and supported. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 9, consider authorizing Resolution 17-04-08, a resolution approving a brownfield plan between Shiawassee County and Great Lakes Fusion. Authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
I will support that motion. Comments, questions? I know we heard from them at last month's meeting. I know we've got the plan in here, the materials. It looks pretty solid from what I saw. All right. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Item 10, consider authorizing the brownfield reimbursement agreement between Shiawassee County and Great Lakes Fusion, and authorize the board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Make that motion.
I will support it.
So real quick comment, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Ken and Judy Kirkman, who live out on Lytle Road, somewhat neighbors of this area, reached out to me the other night at an event and thanked me and the board immensely for authorizing this. And that's kind of in their neighborhood. It's being cleaned up. They appreciate that, and then they appreciate the future taxes and economic development. So there are just a couple of constituents out there that are very happy with this decision and our efforts to help them out. So.
Good. Thank you for passing that along, Commissioner. It's been moved and supported. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. That brings us to item 11, other agenda items that we've not discussed. Commissioners would like to.
I just want to add to the service agreements that we're saving, the 40,000 that we're going to be saving. We kind of brought this before you right now, so you guys can see the savings, see what's going to be there. All the money, goes back to building and grounds. It's a savings out of their budget currently. It's not going to be coming from anywhere else. So this was kind of just to let you guys see the numbers, see where it's at. We've looked at some rough numbers on putting the part-time to full-time. We already considered it, but we wanted to give you guys a month to look at things, and then we'll bring it back once we have a better plan. I know I told Jeff not to push, but we're looking at that. I just wanted you guys to all see it first, see all the savings, see that it's not going to be coming from anywhere else, and it's probably going to end up being half that for a 12-year period, so it'll even be less than 20 to put them on for the remainder of the year. So we'll get the figures, but that's just something to be, for the board to be looking forward to probably next month to consider.
Thank you. I had one item, and I feel remiss that I didn't acknowledge our deputy clerk sitting in for Caroline Wilson due to her illness. So thank you for joining us. We're wishing Caroline a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
And hope she'll be returning soon. So I apologize for not starting out.
Thank you.
That brings us to the final call to the public. Okay, seeing no additional public comments, we stand adjourned. Thank you.